Hello and welcome. Today I'll be doing an analysis on the current early and mail-in vote. But before we get started, please go subscribe. We're currently at 345 subscribers. Let's hit 350 by the end of the month. So go and subscribe and let's get started. So I'm using NBC News. They have a mail-in ballot requests and mail-in early in-person ballots returned. Currently there's 55,863,858. Among them, 45% are registered Democrats, 37% are registered Republicans, and 18% are independents. So early vote is going to be more split between Republicans and Democrats. Mail-ins are definitely going to heavily favor Democrats, and on the day of vote is going to heavily favor Republicans. So at the moment, this is not what the total vote is going to look like. There's still independents, which are probably going to split or slightly favor Trump or Biden. But currently, if you do registered voters, Biden has an 8-point lead. If you were to add in the day of vote, I would expect this to go down to about a 5 or a 4.5 margin. So we're going to go over some of the swing states. We're going to first look at Texas, which I was very surprised by the current numbers that are in. I've had Texas, in polling it's had Texas showing that Joe Biden in a latest poll had him up 3 and a tie. There's a couple plus 4s and 3s for Trump, but 53% are registered Republicans. So that means 53% most likely just went to Trump and 37% went to Biden, not including the independent vote, which even if all of it did go to Biden, it would still give Trump a +6 lead, and that doesn't even include in-person voting on the day of, which even with the high turnout, I am very surprised by these current numbers. I know there's going to be some registered Republicans that will vote for Biden and some registered Democrats that will vote for Trump, but it will evenly balance out. So as of currently, I would give Texas to Trump probably by about a 6 to 7 point margin, like I've been saying. It could even be larger than that, and I am currently very surprised by the numbers that have ballots returned. There's going to be more to come. Currently, there's 7 million about votes, which is huge. Texas is going to have a lot higher turnout compared to 2016. Going over to another state I was very surprised about, Ohio. For mail-in in-person ballot returns, 48% are registered Republicans, 39% are registered Democrats, 13% are independents. 2.2 million votes cast. That's about a third or almost a half of the vote in the previous 2016 election. But 48% registered Republicans and 39% registered Democrats in early in-person as well as mail-in voting. That is very good numbers for Trump as well there. Ohio polling has showed about a dead even tie or a slight favoring to Trump. I've said it's going to be a likely, and it's already showing in the early voting that it is heavily favoring Trump. And more people on election day that are going to vote are going to favor Trump more than Biden. So I do believe Ohio is still going to go likely to Trump due to the early voting numbers. We're going to go into New Hampshire. Where is New Hampshire? There it is. So far, pretty low turnout. Higher early vote than the previous election, but currently there's not that much compared to the total vote of the last election. This is about a quarter, not even or close to a third of the vote. 53% are Democrats, 21% are Republicans, 26% independents. I've said that New Hampshire is going to be close to a likely margin for Biden. with current low turnout and expected a more even race or slightly favoring Trump on election day voting, I do still see the state where it is probably a 4 to 5 point margin for Biden, which is what it's showing in early voting. Going into Virginia next. There's currently 1.9 million votes, or getting close to half the total vote of 2016. 50% are registered Dems, 37% Republicans, 13% independents. This is going to show probably a likely margin of about 7 to 9 points for Joe Biden, which is an improvement over Hillary Clinton's 5.5 point victory there. We're going to go to New Mexico next. Oh, that is not where I wanted to go. New Mexico. So currently 50% are registered Dems, 35% GOP, 15% other. Currently 500,960 votes. And so getting close to about half the vote of the previous election. This is kind of where I've seen it at too, which I've predicted probably a 10 to 15 point victory for Joe Biden there, and that's what it's showing in the early results too. Moving into Nevada, where is it? There it is. Nevada, surprisingly, is looking like a closer race than what polls have been showing. It showed Joe Biden up between 5 to 7 point margins. Here and there's polls that have shown a close race, but currently pretty good numbers for Trump. Surprisingly, I did not expect this race to be close as it is in early voting. So this one could go down pretty close. I still think it's going to favor Biden, probably by about 3 points or so. Previously, I said 4 to 5, but I've narrowed my margin slightly there. In Colorado is 26% for Republicans, 38% for Democrats, 36% independents. That's pretty good numbers for Joe Biden there, a 12-point lead with just registered voters, 36% independents. They're going to swing a little bit one way or the other, but they're going to split probably 20% to one side, 16% to the other. I still think that Colorado will go in the likely margin between a 6 to 12-point victory for Joe Biden. Going into Arizona, not bad numbers here either for Donald Trump. Even in mail-in requests, 36% Republicans, 36% Democrats. That's an even split with 3 million requested ballots. 28% are independents, and Election Day is going to favor Trump. So if it's currently tied in early voting with registered voters, that is not a good sign for Joe Biden there. I have expressed that Arizona I see is favoring Trump with polls trending towards him, as well as now it shows it in mail-in requests. Currently, mail-in and early person ballot returns is about half the mail-in ballot requests, but it shows a 8-point lead for Biden there. I do see this state still tilting towards Trump. Now going into Georgia. This is another very good sign for Donald Trump. He's at least going to get half the vote there, and that doesn't even include any independent voters. That is a good sign for him, as well as if you look at the gender vote, 56% female, 44% male. We're going to expect 48% male, probably 52% female. Male voters typically favor Republican candidates, and women voters typically favor Democratic candidates. So if there's going to be a more even split on the final results, it's going to show even more support for Donald Trump, probably winning the state between 3 and 5 points. We're going to go into the state of Minnesota. State of Minnesota shows 47% of Democrats have done mail or in-person voting, and 30% are Republicans, 23% independents. That is a good sign for Joe Biden. They're currently in the early vote, but it doesn't show too high of turnout. That is not a good sign. That's about a little under 40% of the previous election. So I still think this will go in the lean and slightly close the gap in the more early and mail-in ballots that come, as well as on election day voting. It's probably going to be probably a 2 to 5 point victory there for Joe Biden. Going into Wisconsin, which I was very surprised about these numbers as well. Even in the mail-in ballot across 42% to 36%, and it has continued with the same percentages, 42%, 36% in mail-in and early in-person ballots returned out of 1.2 million. Lower turnouts than what is needed for Biden, which is not good, and it shows a 36% only, with usually more Democrats registered in the state of Wisconsin than Republicans by about 4 to 6%, which is not good for Joe Biden if there's only an actual deficit for him by 6 points to registered Republicans, not including independent votes, which we can't really tell which way they're going. At this point, I would favor Wisconsin to Trump due to the fact that he is currently leading in early voting, and there's going to be more Republican votes on Election Day, and polling has shown the state is getting closer. Previously, it was showing about a 7-point lead for Biden. It's trended down to about a 4-point lead. I was not expecting those results at all in the state, and I'm surprised. Going into Iowa, I was also surprised with these results, but due to I'm assuming a lot of these voters are what was expected, which was super high Democratic turnout on early mail-in voting, as well as high Republican turnout on Election Day voting. It shows that about half the turnout from the previous election has voted. I think the state's still going to lean to Trump. I don't really see Iowa flipping. Biden hasn't really pushed for too much of a play there, and Trump's doing a couple rallies here and there. He hasn't done too much ad spending there recently as he did in June and July, which is where he was at his lowest point in the election. So I think he's in a good spot in Iowa, and Republicans did good there in 2018, winning the governor race by about 3 points. We're going to go to Florida, which is getting worse and worse for Joe Biden every day. Currently, Joe Biden only leads with 7 points in early voting, but there's going to be a high turnout. That is over half the vote of the previous election, as well as already, 2 million more than the previous early voting at this point. This state is going to go down to a wire. It's going to be between 0 to a probably 2-point victory for either Biden or Trump. I've seen it trending towards Trump, and the numbers aren't big enough where Biden would be able to win the state. In my opinion, I think Biden would at least need a 12-point more of a lead than Trump in early voting. We'll see where it goes, but every day is showing that it's getting closer. I'm going to tilt it to Trump at the moment, giving Trump 254. Going into North Carolina, 30% registered Republicans voted, 40% registered Democrats, 30% other. This is also going to be a very interesting race. 3 million votes have been currently cast, which is about 50 to 60% of the previous election's vote. Also double the early vote as we are now. This state is going to be very, very interesting. I think it's going to go to Trump. It's reliably tilt to lean Republican state. It's only gone Democratic 2 times in the last 40 years. Obama was the last time in 2008, and that was a huge wave for the Democrats. It's not going to be an election this time around like that. I don't see North Carolina flipping, and Biden has dropped some future resources going there. He hasn't done too many events there. Trump is having Pence do, I think, 4 rallies there just in the next 2 days or so, which is going to really boost him. So now Trump only needs 1 more electoral vote to win the election. We're going to look into Maine currently. It is, come on. It is 53% Democratic, 21% Republican, 26% other. And that is not the greatest turnout. It's currently under 50%. We'll see where it is closer to Election Day. I'll be looking back at the early voting numbers. But Maine, I see still in the likely margin, probably a 7 to 8 point victory for Biden there. But Trump will pull out the 2nd congressional district probably by 3 to 4 points. Going into Michigan, it shows Trump leading, which also surprised me. Is Michigan pulling off this time around again? In a polling that a lot of people forgot about. So don't even judge me for being partisan in this, which I'm just saying there's other possibilities. Trump could win these states or Biden could win these states. Not for sure. Polling is gonna be, I think it's gonna be very off with how partisan people are, and they don't want people knowing what they believe because they're scared about it. Michigan in 2016 in the Democratic primary had Hillary Clinton up there 20 points over Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders won the state by about 2 points, as well as Trump was trailing Hillary Clinton by about 5 points and pulled out a win of half a point. So Michigan polling is pretty off usually. I don't think Trump's going to win the state, but this is a good sign that he could definitely win it again. And it's showing that it is going to be close. It's not going to be an 8-point victory, which they're showing in polling. I still think it's going to go to Biden probably by about 2 to 4 points. But it is showing it is closer than what we thought it was. Going into Pennsylvania, which this is really showing how people believe and how people see voting for early versus on the day of. So 71% of people who voted are registered Democrats, 20% registered Republicans, and only 9% independents, but very low turnout. That's about a quarter of the vote in the previous election. This is supposed to be a lot higher turnout from then, too. So this is very, very bad currently. Even though registered Democrats are getting 71% of that vote, that is not a good turnout number for them. I think it's going to go, well, if it's showing these numbers at this point, I would say it could go either way in my opinion. There has been polling that's shown now it's down to about a 4 to 3 point margin, and polling previously was up for Biden up to about 8 points. That's a 5-point swing in the matter of a couple of weeks. We'll see where Pennsylvania goes. I'm going to leave it blank, but this is what I see off of early voting, which is very interesting. I'll be going over it more as the days go on. We only have 8 days left until Election Day. Thank you for watching. Please go like, comment, and subscribe. Let's hit 350 subscribers. Thank you for watching.